Welcome to a new episode of the Guru's Perspective. And yes, I like to say first and foremost, shout outs to you, Buck, man. Thanks for that beat, man. At the last minute, I was trying to get something, man, without getting flagged on any other, social media platforms or anything. And I forgot I got the special dude in the house who made beats. So he made that at the last minute for me and looked out for you, boy. And I appreciate that. I hope you like the graphics and some of the things we've been working on. We've been definitely trying to take our promos to the next level. First and foremost, I want to get started and say, man, it was a hell of a week in both college and NFL. Very interesting. I'm a little happier than what I was too, as you can see. Don't get it twisted. My Honolulu blue is on right now. I'm feeling myself. I got to humble myself a little bit too, because I know what happens on Monday night. So, it's a lot at stake. But let me get off into the college games because, a lot of the games was blowouts. Like, first and foremost, Michigan, I wanted to see how they responded after losing to Oklahoma. They had a preseason game, if you want to say, and they played Central Michigan. It was a blowout. They let Bryce Underwood be Bryce Underwood. He scrambled for over 100 yards, passed for over 300 yards, and he looked like what I expect him to look like when they took the training wheels off of him early. Yes, I'm not getting it all twisted, and I'm not to the point where I'm doing cartwheels quite yet because of the fact it was a Central Michigan. I want to see what he do against different competition. We got Ohio State and other games that will be at stake, and I want to know how close or how far would he be in his development. But it was a lot of blowout victories. Penn State had a blowout, Florida State, and a lot of the big teams played a lot of teams that didn't have anything to lose. It was just teams that was paying them, to play them. So it was pretty cool to see some of the games that actually happened that was really close. And one of the games that surprised me too, and I'm going to say it right now, I don't think it's really a good start to the Archie Manning era. Yeah, that first game, he didn't look too bad, which was surprising. But I think a lot of that had to do with the good defense. He made a lot of mistakes in that first game that he played. But this game was a reality check. It's like, come on, man, Texas. You guys basically struggled against UTEP. I had no idea that this was going to happen. You barely beat them. And I feel like, to be honest with you, if UTEP would have capitalized and would have thrown better passes rather than throwing the two interceptions, it'd probably be even more of a closer game than what we expected. Of course, it was still like a 2 touchdown favor or like a 3 score favor. That final score was 27-10. But like I said, who expected to see Archie Manning and the Texas Longhorns of all teams struggle like that? You even had the crowd on the other hand boo this dude. It's surprising too, because you never heard a Manning get booed like that, especially in their collegiate career. Peyton Manning is a legend, when he played in Tennessee, and then, Ole Miss with Eli, those names basically are going to definitely be retired in their Raptors. But then the problem is right now, Arch Manning got to live up to those expectations. Is it to the point he's crumbling under pressure, or is it just we putting too much on this guy? I need to give him a chance. I want to see his development throughout the year, but the 27-10 victory is definitely a hiccup for them, especially being a number 7 ranked Texas team. He had 114 yards passing, 11 of 25 with a touchdown and an interception, and that's where a lot of the boos came from. And with UTEP, it wasn't really nothing they did special too. I mean, it wasn't really too much scoring in this game on their end. And the quarterback basically had 209 yards and he had 2 interceptions, Malaki Nelson. So I believe that game should have been more of a blowout, and that's what I believe people expected. But I'm just going to say myself, as a person who's definitely one who's been hyping this brother, man, give him a chance to let him get a chance to actually cook. He didn't play that many games or start as many games, and with the team he have around him, give him his chance to get himself together. But I definitely think he'll be okay. The other game was really impressive to me. One of my favorite games that I watched, honestly, was the LSU Florida game. Florida just came off a really bad loss to USF. the University of South Florida. Nobody expected that, neither. Actually got those guys ranked after that game, too. They played so well against the Florida team, the people who had high expectations for. And Florida, it was bad, because I feel like they were in a game. The quarterback was the one who took them out of the game. And it was just very impressive to see a person play that bad. I was impressed to see a person actually play this bad. So, hear me out. I was just surprised because DJ Lagway, I thought that he's a promising guy. I still feel like if they give him a chance, but if he keep doing games like this or keep stinking up the field like this, I say just, get somebody else. You definitely have somebody else in the fold right now in Florida. I don't think that the ship is going to sink any further, and expectations are not really that high. But sky is the limit for DJ Lagway. But it was just really one of the worst games I've ever seen displayed as far as a quarterback in college. DJ Lagway had 287 yards. He was 33 of 49. He had a touchdown, but he had 5 picks. I thought the LSU would be able to do more with those picks. But Florida defense played outstanding. That's the reason why that game didn't really get that bad. But it was a really funky game on top of everything because you thought with 5 interceptions that they would have cleaned house, but it wasn't really much going on. And Garrett Nussmeyer, I don't want to mess up his name. Garrett Nussmeyer wasn't as good as well. I mean, he was like 220 yards through the air, 15 of 27, a touchdown, and he had a pick. But it was just a really sloppy game, but it was a good game because it wasn't a lot of scoring, some good defensive plays. It was an SEC style game, and it looked really almost like a pro style game with just two really good defenses. And LSU slightly found a way. It was funny too because people were still complaining that Brian Kelly won. And they said, well, man, you worried about, the third quarter and how bad we played the third quarter this week. But it was just this week. This is the first time this happened. It never happened before. So why am I sitting here explaining myself to you guys? And I know he was pissed because they won the game. But it was a sloppy game nonetheless. But still, it was a ranked team playing a team who was ranked, and it was close. Like I said, you can't underestimate a team when they're in the same division. SEC hits different, and I had to really learn that just from being the fan myself. The other game was actually pretty good too, and I was really surprised in seeing this one. I didn't think it was going to be as good at first, but then again, I could say it wasn't good. Let's be honest, because South Florida finally got ranked and they were number 18, but then they got stumped by University of Miami team. So I can't really say it was that good, but it was just cool to see that they went up in the rankings, and then they played a team who I felt like they wasn't ready for them right now. Miami the U is fully back right now. I think Florida State is basically, one of them teams where I feel like is back in the fold, and I feel like the U is a little better than them right now. And that's just speak volumes because I feel like they were knocking on the door the last couple of years, but I believe both of those teams are back, especially with Carson back at the realm as the quarterback. He had 340 yards through the air, 23 of 38, 3 touchdowns. He had 2 picks on the game, but it wasn't like University of South Florida was able to capitalize neither. The quarterback over there didn't really do as well as he's done the week prior to, Bynum Brown. He had 274 yards through the air. He had a touchdown and he had a pick on the day. And them basically was the only scores he had, on the day was that touchdown. That final score was a blowout victory, but still it was just good to see the feel-good story of South Florida beating Florida and upset them. And I still believe a lot of it had to do too, because it's a lot of hiccups in Florida. They have like penalties on just like offsides and, neutral zone and the formations and the shifts. And it's just really something that you don't never really, expect from a team who's well disciplined and who's a good organization like Florida too. Too many of their hiccups came back to bite them in the end. And let me tell you, that was one of the same stories with them before when they played just recently, when they played LSU. But get back into, the fold, in the game in hand. The same hiccups that Florida had, it was the same hiccups that South Florida had. But at the same time, I feel like it was a more dominant team that they played with the U. And Miami was definitely one of them teams right now who I feel like they can go to toe for anybody right now. I like the actual running back too. I feel like Mark Fletcher Jr. had a really good game. He had 120 yards, 16 carries, and he had two scores. And it just felt like they were just a balanced team. The defense was dominant and the offense looked good from the passing and run game. I think at this point, Quinn Ewers is scratching his head because he should have came to the University of Miami, but Carson Beck took that instead. He got that NIL money. He left Georgia, and I still feel like Georgia is going to be a dominant team. And but right now, Miami has a better chance in their division right now. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so at this point. But I still can't, take away from Georgia in the game that they had as well, because damn, that was a hell of a game too. And the crazy part was throughout all the blowouts, you still had some really exciting games when it came to the teams who were ranked, who played each other, and you had a couple of upsets slid in here too as well. Georgia versus Tennessee was one of the best games I've seen in a long time in collegiate football. Right now, I'm gonna say that's like one of the top five I've seen right now recently in the years 2000 of all time. It was crazy because it was back and forth. I really thought that this game had more of a Tennessee, edge to it. I was just surprised because Joey Aguilar really looked good. He wasn't afraid of the big moment, and he went toe to toe with Stockton in this game. He had 371 yards through the air, 24 of 36 passing, four touchdowns. He had two picks on the day, but the team was just like a finely tuned athletic machine. I was just really disappointed because of the way it ended, but I wasn't disappointed because it ended up being a thriller. And Chris Basil II, the wide receiver, he had six receptions for 177 yards and three scores on the day. Like I said, too, I got to give credit to Gunnar Stockton. He had 304 yards through the air, 23 of 31, and he had two touchdowns as well. It was just a really good effort offensively and defensively on both sides. What do you expect? It was an SEC game again, two top ranked teams. You had number 6 versus 15. The crazy thing is, still, regardless of everything, Tennessee found yet another way to blow the game. Come on, you guys. You had Georgia twice and blew it. You had them last year when I thought that game was over and you found a way to lose. Something told me I really don't think that this game is over yet. I believe it was like a 48-yard field goal with like a few seconds left on the clock. The field goal kicker went up to kick. I said it's definitely not even going to make it, and it's not going to be close. And that's exactly what happened. Kick the field goal, muff the field goal. We're in the overtime. Tennessee was stunned. They said, damn, we had a chance to walk off Georgia and prove that we belong with these guys. And you did exactly what you did prior years in the past. You choked and you found a way to lose. When you guys went into overtime and played, it was a three and out, but you got the field goal. You finally made the field goal that you should have made in regulation. But at that time, that was the end of the game because Georgia went ahead and they had, the game-winning touchdown. It was a really good game, and I felt like it was back and forth. At one point, I felt like they had their foot on Georgia Bulldogs' throat, and they just couldn't capitalize. So I'm definitely shocked in that, but it was a really good game. That final score was 44-41 in overtime. I want to go on to the Texas A&M and Notre Dame game. This was the one that really stunned me because it was a really crazy game too. It was a back and forth between two high power offenses, and I can't really say too much about defense on those last two games because Tennessee and Georgia didn't have no defense whatsoever, and that game was 41-44. But this game was 41-40, and Notre Dame goes 0-2 on the season. They lost prior to Miami. That's when we said we knew for sure the U was back. But then you had the game, and it was like basically up to you. And it was like you were in the driver's seat at home. Notre Dame, and you blew this game. Number 8 Notre Dame versus number 16 Texas A&M, and this is how it went right here. It was basically a back and forth, and I thought at one point Notre Dame had the game, but it just didn't feel like they executed when they needed to. I can't really say that because they did enough to win. It was just I feel like no disrespect to CJ Carr because he did his job. He had 293 yards to the air, 20 of 32. He had a touchdown and he had a pick on the day. But I definitely like Jeremiah Love, their running back. He's a stout dude. He had 94 yards, 23 carries, and a score. But I just felt like the Aggies wanted it more. Marcel Reed, he looked phenomenal. 360 yards through the air, 17 to 37. He had 2 touchdowns and he had a pick as well. But what I like to see was, too, it was a really good run game. And Le'Veon Moss had a really good game, too, as well. 20 carries, 81 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, what else can I say? Even a wide receiver chipped in. Mario Craver, he had 207 yards, which is very impressive on 7 receptions. So he was catching nothing but bombs, and he had a score as well to add to that. So it was pretty much of a shootout. But the difference is right now, and I'm like, come on, you guys, make it make sense. I kind of snuck in and looked at the AP poll, top 25. Notre Dame is 0-2 right now, and they're ranked 24. Come on now. I feel like with me and the co-host of the Guru Sports Session, ebook said was pretty accurate when we said, man, Notre Dame is in it until they're not in it. But I believe if they fall to 0-3, you might as well take them off the board. And unfortunately, I think they're going to be looking in a new direction as a head coach. Like I said, that final score was a walk-off victory for the Aggies, Texas A&M, 41-40. And the sky is falling right now in South Bend. I want to get on and I want to talk about this Vanderbilt game too, because this surprised the hell out of me because we were saying you got to put respect on Vanderbilt's name, but having the number 11 South Carolina just really crumble the way they did, I didn't expect that. But like I said too, Vandy definitely should be ranked after that game. They look really good. Diego Pavia, he had 177 yards through the air. He was 18 to 25. He had 2 touchdowns and he had a pick as well. But when you look at it too, he had a pretty good ground game. And Jamezel Lassiter, he had 44 yards on 1 carry and he had a score. Funny thing is, it wasn't really a good game from the South Carolina end because Luke Doty didn't really look good at all. He had 148 yards, 18 to 27, and he had a pick on the day. The only touchdown that was scored was Razul Faison, and he had 74 yards with 15 carries in the score. That was the only touchdown in the game. Vandy went nuts on those guys, and I just feel like now you got to definitely respect Vanderbilt. They didn't beat some of the best teams last year. They popped Alabama, one of their first games they won in the Caleb DeBoer era. And I just really feel like it was funny to see that at first, but then they were topping off big teams. They were really paused. They were beating a lot of good teams that I was surprised that they beat. And I thought that, man, maybe they're better than what we give them credit for, which definitely I was giving them credit for. And it showed it because the upset came and they really beat up on South Carolina. Not only did they beat up on number 11 South Carolina, but they beat up on those guys at home. So that spoke volumes to me as well. And another upset I want to talk about, I called this one. I called this one on the show, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm arrogant or anything, but I really feel like this team doesn't get the credit that they deserve right now. Number 12, Clemson versus unranked Georgia Tech, which I know they're ranked now after this game. Georgia Tech does not fear. They don't bow down to nobody. I've seen them win a lot of good games last year. They should have beat Georgia last year, but they came up short in that game. But we're going to talk about the present right now. And them beating a team that I felt like Clemson, who is now going in the transfer portal, and they got the NIL deals, and they're getting with the times right now. It still wasn't enough facing Georgia Tech. Haynes King, he had 211 yards passing, and he was 20 for 28. But then on the ground, he had 103 yards, 25 carries, and a touchdown. So it was pretty good. They usually had those option plays too, but he's a really big dude too. But it was just a really good game because it was back and forth the whole game. And I said, whoever got the ball last with little time on the clock is going to win this game. Cape Cluckney didn't do as well as I thought he'd do. He had 207 yards, 15 to 26, a touchdown, and he had an interception. The running back looked pretty sharp, though. Adam Randall, he had 80 yards on 15 carries in the score. And I feel like when you seen this game, you thought that you was going to get more from Clemson. And Brian Wesco Jr., had 126 yards off 7 receptions, and he had a score. The difference maker is I just feel like Georgia Tech's defense is nonstop down your throat, and they run the ball, and you got that dual quarterback who can run and throw. It just was a lot for Clemson to handle. And when they got that ball last, I said, yeah, this is about to be over right now. Clemson's about to pull off the upset, just like I said. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout. I thought it was going to be pretty much a competitive game, but at the end of the day, they had more and they had what it take, and they took down number 12 Clemson. It was a pretty good game, so I definitely can say I enjoyed some of the games that actually was relevant in college this week. And I want to move on, and I want to go to the pros because, I got a smile on my face, but then that smile definitely went to me being all about business now because I know what's at stake on Monday Night Football. I want to get into week 2, and I want to talk about the first game of the week when I had to put some respect on Green Bay's name. I knew that they were serious after this game. I mean, what they did to us, I said, yeah, we didn't have a lot of preseason reps, and I feel like that was one of the issues. But still, you got to give credit where credit is due. They went out there, they were being aggressive, they want to win. Now, they ended up getting one of the best pass rushers in the game, which is Micah Parsons. And not only did they do that to solidify themselves on defense, the offense was already high potent. Jordan Love had 292 yards, 19 of 31, and he had 2 touchdowns. And he threw the ball at will. He wasn't afraid. He didn't care that whoever was on that other side of the field, the safeties or anybody, the pass rushers, he looked at them and down their throat and he said, hey, check this. I'm going to play the way I play. And when I look at it too, I thought that Lattimore was a good, cornerback, but they made those guys look bad that game. Like I said, he was 19 to 31 with 2 touchdowns, and he threw the ball whenever he felt like it, whenever he pleased. And Josh Jacobs had 84 yards on 23 carries, a touchdown. But the person of the game who really stood out was their tight end, Tucker Kraft. That kid, man, you got to start putting respect on his name as one of the top tight ends in the game right now. He had 6 receptions, 124 yards, and a touchdown, and he couldn't be stopped. On the other end, I feel like Jaden Daniels didn't play that bad, but he looked average this game. He didn't look as spectacular as he's done last year. Maybe people are getting more tape on him and learning what to do against him. Or maybe, like I said, that defense is serious. And basically, you got to put respect on Green Bay's name now. The 200 yards, the 24-42 passing, I feel like he was passing the ball too much for only 2 touchdowns. But the issue happened in the beginning of the game and early, too, when Austin Eckler got hurt. When Eckler got hurt, I said, man, this probably slowed down some of their gadget passing plays. Zach Ertz did okay, 6 receptions, 64 yards in the score. But I just still feel like the dominant defense of the Green Bay Packers and putting in Micah Parsons, he didn't even play the whole game. He just had some pass plays and he was disruptive. And that's what you need. You need a game changer on your team. And that's the reason why right now I'm going to say that Green Bay looks like they're the biggest threat right now to the Philadelphia Eagles as going out of the NFC. I want to go into the other games. I want to just get this one off my chest. I felt a sigh of relief because it wasn't really too many blowout games in this week, but the Detroit Lion game was a blowout victory. And I felt like they was disappointed. they feel like they underachieved. And I know they heard all the heckling because Stephen A was saying, man, he didn't think they was going to fall off this bad. And then you hear Peter Schrager saying, well, man, they're in trouble. It depends on how they come out this next game to know what type of Detroit Lions team we have. But we don't really, we didn't expect for them to come out and play as bad as they did. And nobody did. But at the same time, when you got a new offensive coordinator and you're not taking reps. I mean, the defensive coordinator is basically still in house, but you don't have that same team. So I feel like the reps needed to be taken more seriously between the offense and the defense. But I can't take away from that. Now they did what they did. And like I said, give credit to Green Bay for going out there and punching them in the mouth. That was the reality check they needed. Jared Goff went crazy that game. Whoever had him in fantasy, I tilt my hat off to you. He had 334 yards, 23 of 28. So he was barely missing passes. And he had 5 touchdowns on the day. Jameer Gibbs had 94 yards on 12 carries in the score. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 115 yards, 9 receptions, and 3 touchdowns, too, to add to that. So, yeah, man, they really cooked. And I believe that not only were they embarrassed from the week 1 loss, but then Ben Johnson comes back home and basically sleeping with the enemy. Not only did he leave the Lions, I wouldn't even been offended if he left the Lions and went somewhere like the AFC or if he went to another division. Yeah, I would have been not too happy that he went to an NFC team, but you go in the same division right down the street from us. You definitely, when you say sleeping with the enemy, that's the true definition. And people were like, well, you should be happy that Ben Johnson got the team being relevant between him and Aaron Glenn and what they've done for Detroit. Yeah, I'm definitely thankful. But at least Aaron Glenn went to the AFC. You go to the NFC, and I'm okay if you went to the NFC, but then you go to a division rival. So we knew that they were going to be amped for that game. Jordan Love did as good as he could that game. He had 207 yards, 19 to 30, 2 touchdowns, and he had a pick on the day. I feel like that pick from Kirby Joseph was awesome as well. But they basically wanted to make a statement in this game. Roman Doomsday looked good too. He had 128 yards, 7 receptions, 2 touchdowns, and a familiar face of ours, our running back, DeAndre Swift, had 63 yards, 12 carries, and a touchdown. Correction, our former running back. It was a lot at stake from both teams. For one, you have former players that came back to Detroit, and then you have the offensive coordinator who's now a coach that came back to Detroit. And Detroit was feeling some kind of way after that embarrassed week 1 loss, and they just really put the pedal to the metal, 52-21. And there was asking Ben about running up the score, and he said, what else did you think they were going to do? I don't think that he defended what they were doing, but at the same time, I knew that he wasn't too happy as well. But like I said, it was a reality check. I'm over it now. It's time to get to this next up and coming week because it's a big game in store. We are the prime time main game with the spotlight on us on Monday too, and I will definitely get into those scores. So the Rams and the Titans is what I expected. I mean, Matthew Stafford, if he's just 75%, I feel like he could have beat a Tennessee Titans team. It's going to be a lot of growing pains with that team. Matthew Stafford had 23 for 33. Passing 298 yards to the air, 2 touchdowns as well. And it was good to see Devontae Adams have a good game. He had 6 receptions, 106 yards in the score. And I just felt like that's going to speak volumes for this team because I really feel like with them right now, they're really going to click if, everybody's healthy and playing at their best. Growing pains for Cam Ward right now. He had 175 yards and 19 to 33 passing, and he had a score, but it wasn't really a lot going on their way. But the final score was 33-19. The Rams go 2-0, and the Tennessee Titans go 0-2. I mean, that's what I expected in that game, nothing less. This game right here surprised me, but this is where the injury bugs start to creep in because I feel like a healthy Joe Burrow would have made a little bit more of a difference. But I feel like the Jaguars played pretty well in this game. Trevor Lawrence looked good too. He had a couple of hiccups, but still he looked good. He had 271 yards through the air, 24 of 42, three touchdowns, and he had those two interceptions that were kind of costly. But Jake Browning, that's the difference maker right there. I believe that in this game, early in the game, that we had the injury of Joe Burrow. He had the turf toe injury, and he will possibly be out 3 to 4 months now. That's what they're predicting. I don't know how long the Bengals are going to be able to hold on. We've always said how great of a quarterback Joe Burrow was, and when he's healthy, they play as good as he play. But when has he been healthy lately? He's been hurt. He's been out early as far as preseason and banged up during the year before even having a down play, and now this year he's going to be out for a long period of time. I don't know what's going to happen and what's going to be next. I'm not trying to be funny or stir the pot over there, but I would definitely look forward to seeing what Jake Browning has to do too. But still, you got to focus on eventually soon trying to get you another franchise quarterback, not trying to just throw him to the wolves and say it's over for him. But he has a lot of injuries going on, bad injuries he's had throughout the years that he's been playing in professional level. And this injury definitely is one of them right now. But not taken away from this game, the Bengals still went out and they won this game 31-27, even with a really bad game from Jake Browning. He had 241 yards through the air, 21 to 32. He had two touchdowns, but he had three costly picks. And I still feel like that the Jacksonville Jaguars was in that game. They should have won that game, my opinion. The Cleveland Browns and the Ravens don't really need to get too detailed in this one. The Ravens did what the Ravens do. Lamar Jackson had 225 yards through the air, 19 to 29, and he had four touchdowns. And he was the difference maker of the game. On the other end, Joe Flacco had 199 yards, 25 or 45, a touchdown and a pick. But Lamar Jackson shined that game. He was definitely embarrassed after the loss to the Buffalo Bills, and he went out and capitalized like he should have. This was a scary game right here. Speaking of the Buffalo Bills just win and they just handle business. The crazy thing about it was Josh Allen didn't really do too much. He had 148 yards, 14 of 25, but he didn't have to because James Cook had 21 carries, 132 yards, and he had two scores on the game. Scary thing was Tyrod Taylor was in this game, meaning that Justin Fields got hurt early and he was out of that game, and it didn't really look good after that. Tyrod Taylor had 56 yards, 7 of 11 passing in the score, and this is not good right now for the Jets. And then, unfortunately, Justin Fields got hurt again. This is another guy who have high expectations. He looked really sharp that first game, and it went down to the wire. But him being injured and looking as bad as he did this game definitely didn't help. And that final score was 30-10. Buffalo is definitely proving everything I said. I definitely believe that they're going to be the team to come out of the AFC this year. The Patriots and Dolphins game was a really bad one, but at the same time, it just let me know how bad the Miami Dolphins really are. Tua Tagovailoa had 315 yards through the air, 26 to 32, two touchdowns, and he had a pick. So he kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Drake May had 230 passing yards, 19 to 23, and two touchdowns in the game as well. But that final score was 33-27. It was just a battle of two bad teams. And I just feel like, unfortunately, right now, we thought that New England was going to be the worst team in the league. It might be going between the Saints, the Dolphins, and the Tennessee Titans right now until New England proved me wrong, which I still feel like they're going to prove this year. I still feel like those are going to be some of the worst teams in the league right now. Mac Jones, big ups to Mac Jones because Purdy got hurt and he's went through a lot. He's been passed around. He was on the Patriots. He went to the Jags for a minute, and now he's over here with San Francisco. I feel like him being with this team definitely helped as a backup. He had 279 yards, 26 to 39, and three touchdowns on the game. He looked really good, and he didn't look rattled at all. Speaking of, Spencer Rattler had 207 yards, 25 to 34, and he had 3 touchdowns as well. It was just, I feel like San Francisco's a better team all around. And that's the reason why I feel like they took the 26-21 victory. This was the game that surprised me right here. I really thought that the New York Giants, the G-Men, had this game. They had it until they didn't. I think Russell Wilson tried to do too much and he was trying to be Superman, and this is the reason why they lost that game. At certain points, you should just go ahead and just play a little conservative when you feel like you have the opportunity to win the game. He was being a little too over aggressive, throwing the ball like crazy. And once he got picked, I said, yeah, this is going to be a problem because now that this happened, I don't think that they're going to win the game. They had every chance to win the game and they just didn't want it. And the Cowboys choked this game as well. It was a little bit more of Russell Wilson versus the Dallas Cowboys, them boys, perhaps. Russell Wilson had 450 yards through the air, 30 or 41, 3 touchdowns, and that costly pick that cost them the game. Dak Prescott had 361 yards, 38 to 52, 2 touchdowns, and he had a pick as well. You even seen Scatterboo look pretty decent. He had 45 yards on 11 carries and a score. Malik Neighbors really got off, 167 yards on 9 receptions and 2 scores. Javonte Williams really looked good in that game, 97 yards on 18 carries and a touchdown. It was just really a good back and forth game between two mediocre teams at best. And I just felt like Dallas had a little more talent, and that's why they came out on top. But still, the Giants had that game. That final score was a field goal victory for the Dallas Cowboys, 40-37. Seattle Seahawks versus the Steelers. The Steelers came off a really good week 1 victory over the Jets, and they couldn't carry that momentum. I feel like still that bad play, that muff when the guy just let the ball go into the end zone and then let Seattle cover it, especially when you touch the ball too to score that touchdown. That was just one of them plays where it was a mental hiccup, and at this point, I probably would have took that guy off my team. Now, he wouldn't even be playing for me the next week, to be honest with you, because that game was relatively close until it wasn't. That play shifted everything. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Seattle lost at home, and then they capitalized on the road against Pitt. Sam Darnold had 295 yards, 22 of 33, 2 touchdowns. He had 2 picks on the day as well. And Aaron Rodgers had 203 yards, 18 to 23. He had a touchdown, but he threw 2 picks as well. But Kenneth Walker III had 105 yards on 13 carries and a score as well. That 31-17 victory just let me know still you got to respect Seattle. And even though they didn't have that 12-man advantage and they lost at home, but regardless, they can take that team and they can go anywhere and they can put up a good fight, especially when Sam Darnold's doing well. I feel like just like the Lions, as good as Sam Darnold play, as good as Seattle's going to be this season. This was a really good one right here. I don't know, but I definitely thought I picked the Colts on this one. Not tripping out if I didn't. You got to put respect on the Colts name, man. I always felt like they had an okay offense. They just needed somebody who could control that offense. And Danny Dimes, a.k.a. don't call him Danny Dimes no more, Indiana Jones, was in the building. And they looked good this game against a really stout defense as well. The crazy part about it is Danny Dimes, or Indiana Jones, a correction, had 316 yards, 23 of 34 passing, and he had a score in the game. Jonathan Taylor had 65 yards, 165, correction, on 25 carries. He was running the ball all over the place. Bo Nix looked pretty sharp, too. He had 206 yards, 22 of 33 touchdowns, and he had a pick on the game. But J.K. Dobbins looked good, too, 76 yards on 14 carries and a score. And a person who really looked good in this game was Troy Franklin, the wide receiver, 8 receptions, 89 yards, and he had a touchdown. But I just feel like it was just really good defense from the Colts, and then the offense played well. It wasn't really a lot of mistakes made. Usually with the Colts and Anthony Richardson, you see a lot of bad decisions on his part. the reading of the defenses and just throwing or running, trying to be a superhero and fumbling the ball. Just a lot of things that I feel like that they had to go as a disadvantage to them when he was playing is a more of an advantage for Daniel Jones right now, Indiana Jones at that. That final score went down to the wire, and it was funny because I feel like Denver gave them every chance to win. You know, the game was over, but you guys had a penalty. And when you had that penalty, because I said, man, the game is over. But then I kept seeing that 29 or 28 on my phone, and I was scratching my head. I said, is this an error? Do they got to correct this? But then I keep forgetting too that I was watching on my TV and my TV was delayed. So when they gave them that extra chance, it went straight down the middle. And that was the final score 29-28. Got to give credit where credit is due and much respect to the 2-0 Indianapolis Colts. The Panthers and Cardinals was another bad game, but I feel like they had every chance to win this game, the Cardinals, but they kept giving chances to the Carolina Panthers, and that's why I feel like we shouldn't definitely give up on Bryce Young right now, even though they're 0-2. He had 328 yards through the air, 35 of 55, and 3 touchdowns. The problem was, I still feel like that O line wasn't really protecting him because if he had a little bit more protection in time, the game probably would have been different. Kyler Murray played okay. He had 220 yards, 17 to 25, and he had a touchdown. And James Conner had 34 yards in the score as well. But the X factor of the game was I feel like the O line didn't protect Bryce Young like they should. That game was like 9-27 in that fourth quarter, and they came back and almost made a miraculous, victory, but almost is not the win. And that final score was 27-22, and the Cardinals won that game. This game right here was pretty good as well when it came to the Super Bowl rematch. And yeah, my partner called it. E-Buck said that he felt like the Patrick Mahomes was going to lose at home, but they went 0-2. So it's like the sky is falling right now in Kansas City. Jalen Hurts had only 101 yards, 15 of 22. That was it. Saquon Barkley had 22 carries, and he had 88 yards in the score. And Patrick Mahomes had 187 yards, 16 of 29, a touchdown, and he had a pick. And he has 66 yards for 7 carries, and he had a score as well. And with that carry, I feel like he needed to because he wasn't really getting any support from the running backs. Kareem Hunt didn't step up and Isaiah Pacheco. I can't really say they didn't step up. They was just getting stopped. You got a really stout defensive line over there with Philly, and they didn't give them anything. And I think a chunk of the yards that Saquon Barkley got was in the first half, but then they locked down on him as well. It was a really good competitive game defensively, and the final score ended up being 20-17, and that brought the Kansas City Chiefs to 0-2 right now, and Philly 2-0, but it wasn't convincing enough to me. I want to see what the Packers was going to do, and when I will give my predictions too for next week. But right now, I still feel like they're the team in the driver's seat. The Falcons versus the Minnesota Vikings. People thought that they were going to get that spark in that second half or in that fourth quarter from J.J. McCarthy, and that didn't happen. Michael Penix didn't really look too sharp neither. He had 135 yards, 13 to 21 passing, but Bijan Robinson had 143 yards on 22 carries. He was like really stout, and he was running the ball all over the place. Like I said, J.J. McCarthy had 158 yards, 11 of 21, and he had 2 picks on the day. And them 2 picks was costly because that cost him the game. But that final score wasn't even really close. It was 22-6. And that's when we found out later on that J.J. McCarthy have a high ankle sprain and he'll be out 3 to 4 weeks as well. So the injuries are starting to pile up. But then I give credit to that stout Atlanta defense because they looked really sharp. So really good games on Monday Night Football. Well, I can't say they were really good. They were average at best because that first game was like really slow, and then the ending ended up picking up really well. It was really a good game because when I looked up, I said, okay, what's going to happen here? They went in. And they both were just a stage of touchdowns at the beginning. The Titans went down and scored. The Buccaneers went down and scored. So it was like, okay, we're going to have us a ball game. It kind of quieted down and the defense has stepped up and they looked pretty sharp in the game. But at the end of the game, when you looked like you were going to have the Houston Texans win, I got a call saying, man, this is the wrong opportunity right now. They gave the Tampa Bay Buccaneers too much time, and we've seen it on the screen. They said that Baker Mayfield had 22 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and overtime, but like about a minute or so or 2 minutes left in the game clock. Okay, so they ended up getting the ball. And of course, they ran it all the way down the field. And when they went down the field, they scored. I was surprised they went for the 2 point conversion. I didn't really think they necessarily had to because at this point, it was only 6 seconds left, so it didn't really make no sense to me to go for the 2 point conversion. Because, say, for instance, if something happened where they got control of the ball, the defense, and if the defense would have got an opportunity to get the ball and go down and score them 2 points, that would have been the game. So I just felt like the execution should have just been a little better and just kick the field goal. But then I understood what they were looking at was if the 6 seconds left, it's a possibility that they can get in a scoring position. So let's stop them right now if we can. And that's what they did. They said, you know what, let's get our, 2 points so we can make it a 3 point game. So if push comes to shove, if anything, we'll go to overtime rather than them walking off and having a victory on us. But I seen crazier things happen in 6 seconds. So all right. That final score was 20-19. This was the more game right here that I felt like I wasn't really interested in. The game wasn't too bad. It was just a game that where I feel like at one point should have been a little better. But then it was cool to see Justin Herbert play the way he did. Keenan Allen looked really good in this game. And he had a touchdown. And then Quentin Johnston had a good game too as well. He looked really bad after the first couple seasons. He dropped the ball on a regular. He just wasn't consistent. I thought that it was a waste of talent because we seen how well he played in TCU and it just didn't translate it to the pros. But then when he came into the league those 2 years, I'm thinking, okay, well, yeah, they don't have a receiver over there with the Chargers. And I kept saying that. But then you have Lad McConkey now, and then you got Keenan Allen back, and then you have Quinn Johnson playing at a high level because he scored in both games and he looked pretty sharp. So yeah, man, I give credit where credit is due. Coach Harbaugh, all he needed was to have faith in the guy and give him something to look forward to. And then by him not really getting no wide receivers in the draft and sticking with his guys, that's why I feel like this guy is shining right now, and he's looking like an overall first round draft pick that he should have been prior to a couple of years ago. That final score was 20-9. Geno Smith couldn't really do much that game. The defenses played great on both sides, but at the end of the day, I give credit where credit is due because not only did the offense look good with the Chargers, and that's most times what we compliment, but the defense looked stout as well because they was all over the place. I want to go ahead now and I want to talk about some of the scores that's about to happen sooner than later too. Going on in college because that's going to start up pretty soon. It's no Thursday games. It's shocker, no Thursday or Friday game. Well, it will be, but then it's not no top 25 teams. I'm going to go on and give my predictions. Surprisingly enough, they have number 21 Michigan against Nebraska, and they only have Michigan by 2.5 point favor. I'm going to go and I'm going to go over that. I feel like Michigan's going to be at least a 7 point favor. This is going to be a really good slap on game between two 3-0 teams. Texas Tech, number 17 Texas Tech, and number 16 Utah. I'm going to go with Utah at home, and I'm going to take the points to 3.5. U of B versus Tennessee. I'm going Tennessee all day, and damn it, I'm taking that 39.5. Oregon versus Oregon State. Oh, man, it's going to be one for the making. But I'm going to go with Oregon at home, number 6 Oregon, and I'm going to take the 34.5 points. Jesus, it's going to be really some bad games on this week's slate too, you guys, just to let you know, week 4 is not going to be any better. Kent State versus number 7 Florida State. I'm going to take Florida State in the 44.5 points. Auburn, number 22, Auburn versus 11 Oklahoma. I'll take Oklahoma at home, and I'll take the points with the 6.5. Tulane versus number 13 Ole Miss. I'm gonna take the points with Ole Miss, and I'm gonna go with the 11.5 on this one. Purdue and Notre Dame. How the hell is they still ranked and they on two? But you know what? I definitely feel like Notre Dame is going to win this game, and I'm going to take the 26 points, the 26 and a half. Temple versus Georgia Tech, number 18 Georgia Tech. I knew that they had to be ranked this week, well deserved. I'm going to take Georgia Tech, and I'm going to take the 23 and a half. I see now South Carolina is not ranked anymore. They're going to be playing number 23 Mizzou, and I'm going to take Mizzou at home and take the 11 and a half. Okay, now this one right here, I guess because of the rivalry, Florida versus Miami, number 4 ranked Miami. I'll take Miami, but I will take the 7.5 points because I definitely believe that they're going to get played well. I could go over, but I'm gonna stay at that, and I'm gonna just pick Miami. Number 9 Illinois versus number 19 Indiana. I'm going to actually take Indiana in this one in the upset, and I'll take them with the 5 points. Georgia State versus number 20 Vanderbilt. Put some respect on Vanderbilt's name and their rank now. I'm going to take Vanderbilt, and I'm going to take the 26.5 points. SC Louisiana versus number 3 LSU. I'm going to take LSU. They didn't put anything, but I'm going to have them as a 35-point favorite. And Sam Houston versus number 8 Texas. I think Texas need a statement win, and this is basically a scrimmage game for them. I'm going to take the 40.5. Michigan State versus USC. I'm going to take number 25 USC, and I'm going to take the 17.5. Okay, let's go to the pros now. The Dolphins versus the Bills. I'm going to take the Bills, and I'm going to take the 12.5 points. Bengals versus the Vikings. I'm going to take the Vikings, and I'm going to go over. I'm going to have the Vikings by the 2.5. Steelers versus the Patriots. I'm going to go with Pitt, and I'll take the 1.5 points on that one because the Patriots are at home, but still I'm going to go with Pitt. The Colts versus the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to go over. They got Indiana about 3.5. I'm going to take them as a whole touchdown favor. Texans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to definitely go with Jacksonville on this one. I'm going to take the 1.5 points at home. The Falcons versus the Panthers. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm going to take the 5.5 on that one as well. The Rams and the Eagles is going to be a close one. I'm going to go under, but I'm going to take the Eagles. They had the Eagles as 3.5. I'm going to go in a half-point favor. The Jets versus the Buccaneers at home. I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers, and I'm gonna go over. If definitely, I'm gonna go over the 6.5 because if Justin Fields not playing, it's not gonna look good. I like Tyrod Taylor, but he's a good, backup. But that's basically at best. Jesus, the Raiders at the Commanders. They have the Commanders as 3.5 point favor. I'm gonna go in a whole touchdown favor. Packers and the Browns, I'm going to go with the Packers, and I'm going to go over the 7.5 with the Packers. The Broncos versus the Chargers, I'm going to go with the Chargers, and I'll take the 2.5 points on this one as well. Okay, you have the Saints and Seahawks. I'm going to go with the Seahawks, and I'm going to take the 7.5 points. Cardinals versus the 49ers. I'm going to actually go with the Cardinals Cardinals in an upset. I'm going to go with the Cardinals, and I'll take the 1.5 points that they're giving San Francisco. The Cowboys and the Bears, I'm going to take Chicago, and I'm going to take them in a 1.5 point victory, beating Dallas and going to 1-2. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the Giants, I'm going to take the 5.5 points, and I'm going to go with the Chiefs. And this is the game right now of all games. They have the Lions versus the Ravens at home on Monday Night Football. They have the Ravens as a 4.5 point favorite for now. I love my Lions, but I don't know, man. This is a heavy task right here. If they can prove me wrong in this game, I'll be sorry that I ever even say Baltimore. But at home, I'm going to go with Baltimore, but I'm going to go under. I'm going to go as a 3.5 point favorite rather than a 4.5. And I see it keep going down. It was a 6.5. 5.5. Now it's a 4.5. I believe getting closer to money is probably going to be like a 3 to 2.5 point favor. But I just think it's going to be too much Derrick Henry. I'm hoping that our defense can show up because in that second half for the Chicago Bears game, they looked good and the offense exploded. But I just feel like a disciplined Baltimore team at home, that's going to be a rough task to hold up right now for. We can easily go 1-2, and people might look at it like the sky's falling, but then, the schedule's going to be much harder this year. I'm going to definitely go with the Ravens. Like I said, I'm going to take them as a 3.5 point favorite. I'm going to go over. And if the Lions can prove me wrong, that can definitely be the opportunity we really need right now in Detroit, because that's why I was really humble even after that really bad blowout victory we took against the Bears. We beat the brakes off of them, but still we got to go to Baltimore now. So I humbled myself quick. And I want to get with you guys now and let you know how you can check me out. These are all my platforms right here. You can catch me on. You can find me at Hugh Lee as Hoovie on Instagram. I usually post a lot of things on there as far as our promos for the Guru Perspective and all the shows on the Nighthawk Network. Sports Guru to You is my Facebook page where I put the breaking news and stats and things as far as injuries and what's going on around the league and the NFL, etc. And on TikTok, I like to give a shout out to all the people who show love and the support on TikTok as well. That's Hugh.Lee6. And if you have anything that you want me to share or discuss or talk about any further that I'm not really talking about right now, but you would like for me to put more on the show, just hit me up at the sports guru to you at gmail.com. Thank you guys once again. I appreciate you for all the love and respect and the support that y'all have been giving. I just like to get more people to hit my YouTube page, click the link, like and subscribe. I'll definitely be sending that out today too, kind of give you guys, the input on what's going on. But yeah, I would like to definitely have more support. I got too many family, friends, and loved ones, that I don't have as much support as I do right now. Me and a lot of the people in our perspective right now in our group. But I'd like to say thank you all who do chime in and who appreciate me and my brand and, the brand from the Nighthawk Network. I'd like to give a shout out to all the peoples on the network too. Coach V, my man's Meech and Red, Big Red, Nikki, E-Bug, Felicia, with the Rumble Wrestling, report, and my homegirl Road as well. And just like to say thank you all, and until next week.